Good morning. Welcome to the County Seat. I'm your host, Chad Booth. Recently, we've heard a lot about transparency in government, particularly at the federal level. People have been unable to find out information about what's going on, and they feel like things are being kept from them. Not so much of a problem at the state, but we have laws in place that help that process. It's called GRAMA, G-R-A-M-A, and it stands for the Government Records and Management Act. Today, that's the topic of our discussion. We are going to find out how it impacts you, both as somebody seeking information and as you being part of the information someone seeks. We'll get to that a little bit later. But we want to start by bringing you up to speed on exactly what GRAMA is, how it is applied, and to do that, we're going to visit with Terry Wood.
Thanks, Chad. We've all heard about transparency in government, but do you know what that actually means? Well, for many citizens, it means access to public records and documents so that our elected officials can be held accountable. Now, on the federal level, we have the Freedom of Information Act. On the state level, municipal level, and county level here in Utah, we have GRAMA. That stands for Government Records Access Management Act. And it allows you to look at government documents. All you got to do is fill out a little paperwork. Let's see.
Records are created to document all of the functions of government. So if you think about what does the county do, like the county commission minutes and ordinances, the county clerk handles elections, they record marriages, or the county assessor would have records about property values and tax assessment, and the recorder's office has all of the land records. They're creating records to document what they're doing, and that's how you can think about what records are created.
The GRAMA law was passed in 1992 and lays out what records are public, how you get a hold of the documents, and what fees are necessary to open a particular file. The process of making a GRAMA request is easier than you might think, but you do need to know what you're looking for.
You would first make the request to the governmental entity that has the record, whichever entity is creating or maintaining the record. And every governmental entity is required to have a records officer to accept and process GRAMA requests. So in order to qualify as a GRAMA request, you have to provide your name and your address and daytime phone number if you have one, and then a description of the record that you want. And in the law it says you have to describe it with reasonable specificity.
If you're looking for something particularly old, it may require contacting the state archives.
The most popular records we have are probably birth and death records, but then we have a lot of people who come in to look at court records. They want to see probate records, divorces, those kind of things that would document family history. We get people who are interested in legal history, the background on laws that were passed, and so people want to come in and look at drafts of various legislation over the years and listen to the floor debates.
Alan shared a couple of pieces of history from the vault of the archives. Birth records from the 1800s in Weber County. Road maps from when Utah was still a territory. A purchase agreement to water rights from Fish Lake in 1889. Photos from the construction of the Capitol, and minutes from the Deseret Agriculture and Manufacturing Society. Each artifact is a look back at our state's history and a reminder of why these government records are so important.
It's an issue of accountability, that we know what our government has done, that there's a record, and that there is some place that we can go see that record. And that's what the archives is all about, is preserving that record and making sure that government is accountable over the long term to the people.
Of course, we all want our government to be as transparent as possible, and here at the Salt Lake County offices, that was pretty easy. Thanks to acts like GRAMA, we can go through the looking glass and see what's going on in the seats of power in our cities, our counties, and our state. For the County Seat, I'm Terry Wood.
Thanks, Terry. Well, now you have an idea of how GRAMA works and how you can work that system. When we come back, we'll find out what kind of impacts it has on you as part of a record database. We'll talk to our panel of experts when we return on the County Seat.
Tucked away just outside of Cedar City, Utah, are two of southern Utah's best-kept secrets, Canaraville Falls and Kolob Canyons. The rare scenic views create beautiful backdrops to capture the perfect selfie. Get your selfie to Canaraville Falls or Kolob Canyons and get in on one of Utah's best-kept secrets. Go to visitcedarcity.com and access your adventure.
The Utah Farm Bureau has always been there to fight for the needs of its members, with discount programs on items ranging from vehicles and ATVs to health and wellness. The membership fees aren't big, but the results are. We've been around since 1916, and we're not leaving anytime soon. Utah Farm Bureau. We work for those who work to feed the world.
I let me be me. Oh, you know that I'm finally free. You know that let me be me. Oh, you know that I'm finally free to be me.
Have you ever wanted to recreate the world around you? Add some excitement, culture, adventure? Well, there's no need to remake the world when that perfect combination already exists. Just remember 4 words. Welcome to Weber County. In Ogden, you'll find everything you're looking for, from the top of Powder Mountain to the restaurants of our revitalized downtown. Ogden, Utah, mountain to metro and everything in between. Visit Ogden.com.
Welcome back to the county seat. We are continuing our conversation today with GRAMA, our all-star panel today. Gavin Anderson, who is the Deputy District Attorney for Salt Lake County, handles GRAMA record requests. And we have Yvonne Christensen, Davis County Record Supervisor. Thank you both for joining us for the conversation today. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
I would like to start the conversation by just asking a little bit about the positive aspects of GRAMA.
GRAMA has so many positive elements in terms of making records available on literally any subject to any person for any use. And it's really that transparency, I think, is essential to people understanding how government works.
In the process of doing business, government creates records, and there needs to be an accountability of government to the people. And those records have always been public. Those are your minutes, your contracts, all your financial budget information. All of those records are accountability to the people, and they have always been public and easily accessible.
It might not be well known. GRAMA was enacted in 1992, but Utah has been considered an open record state since back before statehood. So GRAMA is not new in concept.
How has the electronics and the fact that we're now doing electronic record keeping, how has this changed this paradigm of records access?
It's made our job very difficult because now, in the past we identified records. We identified exactly what the record was, what portions were public, what was private, what was protected. At this point it's information. We refer to it as information governance, and people are requesting information, and we are not County Google. We can't just punch a few words in and retrieve everything. But the other part of it is there are data brokers who, when you receive information in mass, it has a dollar value. And so now we are being inundated with requests from commercial entities for those purposes.
Well, how does that lead to abuses?
Well, I think in a number of ways. I think one of the most significant abuses is basically treating a local government, a city or a county, as if it were an inexpensive data processing division for the business. And so rather than come up with their own data and manipulating it and publishing it, they rely on the taxpayers to fund that through either city or county government. And in doing so, they basically get the services of a very cheap data processing division.
And I don't think the public's aware of it. We used to say, don't put me on your mailing list or take me off your mailing list. And at this point, if you do business with government, there's a good chance you are on the ultimate mailing list.
Obviously, a lot of the GRAMA Act was designed for individuals trying to make records requests of the county. as opposed to mass data brokers. If an individual is trying to make a request, which government offices handle it? Where does somebody go?
You know, that's really a good question, and that's a matter of public education. For starters, you don't know for sure if you go to the city or the county. And then once you go to either of those, then you have to track down which agency is best equipped to handle your request. And GRAMA encourages very strongly that when a government entity gets a request and you're the wrong person, the government entity needs to help that citizen find the right person.
And we have a lot more training now within the state where most entities have an ultimate records person and then other specialists that work underneath them, and we communicate with each other. Even if I receive a request and it's an entirely different entity, we do our best to give them the contact information.
So basically they should start at the office where they think that information lies and then go upstream from there, so to speak?
Yeah, we all communicate together.
Okay, excellent. Well, we're off to a good start. You may want to contact your friends and let them know we're having this conversation because there may be some records they want to find out about. We'll continue our conversation with some of the abuses and challenges on the county seat when we come back in just a minute.
There's a little place on a Utah map where I was raised, where my heart's at, where the sagebrush grows wild and high, and the stars come out at night. Oh, there ain't nothing like being raised in the basin with a Ute reservation, skiing starvation, that Duchesne County life.
Planning your next conference or corporate event? The Davis Conference Center offers 70,000 square feet of flexible meeting and exhibit space, plus high-tech audio-visual services that will make your event a success. Whether you're planning a training, meeting, company retreat, wedding, or large convention, let the staff at the Davis Conference Center help you arrange your next event. Located east of I-15 in Layton, call 801-416-8888 or visit davisconferencecenter.com today.
I lived in Phoenix and then down in Orange County in California, and I met a small town girl and she brought me home. Just the smaller community that makes you feel like when you go somewhere you know everybody. You know, the sporting programs, the dance events, all these kinds of things, you run into people you know and that care about you and your family. And that makes it just a wonderful place to have little ones like this.
Isn't it time you found the balance you've been looking for? Uinta County, Utah.
When you buy Utah made and grown.
I'm a Utah's own vegetable grower. I care about the foods I produce.
Because when it comes to quality local foods, I understand the importance of Utah grown and raised.
The jobs that we enjoy are vital because Utah's own supports our communities.
As a consumer, I look for Utah's own products because Utah's own is good for me and it's good for Utah.
Keep it here at home, Utah's own.
Welcome back to the county seat. Our conversation today about GRAMA. It's an issue that has come and gone. There have been different bills to try and amend it, a difficult process of keeping transparent records of county government, but also protecting citizens' rights to privacy. So we'll continue our conversation, and let's go back and just talk about some of the challenges that this actually creates for counties. When a GRAMA request comes in, you know, what kind of impact or process does it have?
Well, from my experience, there's basically two kinds of GRAMA requests, the easy ones and the hard ones. And the easy ones are typically the one where a person can basically at the counter turn around, get something, and either put it in the copy machine or just hand a copy to the person. We get those by the thousands, and nobody keeps track of them because they work very quickly and simply.
Even a private record, they show their ID,
yeah.
You give them their private record.
The hard record, the hard response or GRAMA response is the one where they need you to compile lots of records from different sources over many years, electronic, hard copy, maps, photos, and those ones are a lot of work for the county, and they, you know, basically have to recoup those costs or pass them on to the record requester.
And we found that we actually calculated less than 2% of the population of Davis County ever submits a GRAMA request. So at this point, my office is 3 individuals, and our responsibility is the preservation, the scanning, indexing, access of records, the complete maintenance of all of the county records. At this point, Most of my time is spent with GRAMA requests, and those are less than 2% of the population, and a lot of those are from out of state.
You know, as we were discussing this earlier, and you defined this very well, Yvonne, about the difference in kinds of records.
Yeah, I'd like to quote from GRAMA where it says, "In enacting this act, the legislature recognizes two constitutional rights. The public's right of access to information concerning the conduct of the public's business." That's the accountability, that's transparency, that's open records. And like we said, those have always been available. But there's a second component to GRAMA, and that is the right of privacy in relation to personal data gathered by governmental entities. That is the public's information. I don't know if the public realizes that the requests we are getting for information in mass is the public's information. For example, lists of every appraisal in the whole county. We receive lists. We want all the swimming pools in the county. We want all of the individuals who are delinquent in their taxes. And we had an abuse where an elderly gentleman called our treasurer's office and had an eviction notice put on his door that appeared to be from the county, and the county doesn't work that way. So, and once you give out a record, we have no control of what happens with it.
Mm-hmm. When you have these mass data things coming, you're actually providing this information at cost. What do these other people do with it?
They manipulate it and sell it. For example, your appraisal information, they can break down years your house was built, if you need your roof replaced, your siding, your windows, the swimming pool, licensing your dogs, all of those put you on the ultimate mailing list.
And that applies to almost every county agency. The obvious ones are marriage licenses, because there's people who have businesses related to marriage. Dog licenses, there's obviously a lot of dog businesses out there. Parks and Rec, fine arts. Almost anything a county does could end up being a commercial mailing list source.
Obviously, this puts a big strain on the county. It throws a lot of information out there. We've touched on the impact that it has on citizens. What other risks or things should citizens be concerned about?
Some people end up being concerned about is they'll send a communication. It might be a letter, it might be an email to an elected official, and they'll have the idea that somehow that's just between you and I. And it doesn't necessarily become public. But many of those communications are public, and some of them might deal with some personal circumstances, and maybe they're not personal enough to meet the definition of privacy.
There's another concern too. A lot of people may not be concerned. They have Facebook, they're fine with their information being out there. However, I have a lot of women who have come to me in my office, called me, sent emails, and not always just women, but in the women, they have ex-husbands, ex-boyfriends that are stalkers, and they'll say they're deadbeat enough that they won't go to a lot of effort to find me, but if they can find it online, then I'm in danger. We also have a lot of military, law enforcement, judges, prosecuting attorneys who are in danger because as a result of their jobs. And we even have a process to attempt to protect their information, but it's becoming more and more difficult if this information's already gone out en masse.
There are some privacy interests, specific privacy interests built into GRAMA, and they are for the most part pretty good. They talk about the kinds of things that most people would consider private, like medical information or financial information, eligibility for welfare and those kinds of things. Personal identifiers, many of those are made private. But it's incomplete, and as Yvonne's mentioning, especially when you get into property records of the recorder's office or the treasurer's office, people can track down home addresses and things like that really quite easily. And that's too bad, because it's the nature of a recorder's office that people need to be able to do that. But it's certainly a potential abuse.
Well, and with our personal identifiers too, we had the voter registration lists that have always been public, but they have a high price tag on them. But recently, it was in the news that, and we've tried for many years, as the clerk's offices have attempted to remove birth dates off of the voter registration list, and recently they were published online. And since then it's been removed, but that's putting the padlock on the gate after the animals got out.
Well, I can think of a lot of information that's more important than my birth date being out there.
Well, I'll tell you what's scary is if you have someone's name, their address, you have their birth date. Another public record is petitions with your signatures,
Sure.
and
So all it needs is social, and they've got
That's
your
it.
identity.
Yeah, those are the three critical personal identifiers: is birth date, address, and Social Security.
Has the legislature thought about this? I mean, obviously this could become a really major problem.
Well, yeah, and they've been active in some ways. For instance, Yvonne mentioned judges and police officers and prosecutors. There is a provision in GRAMA that allows people just in those three occupations to come into the recorder's office, the assessor's office, and have their real property records made confidential. There's still ways to get around that, frankly, just between you and me. But there's other folks that aren't.
It's no longer just between you and me. This program is way worse than GRAMA.
We do a disclaimer. We say we do the best we can.
We do the best we can. And, but there's lots of professions where that simply doesn't occur. A military person, an ex-wife with a difficult divorce, those kinds of things.
Wow. Well, what I think we're going to do right now is we're going to take a break. We're going to invite you to join us on the other side of the break. We'll come back and we will look forward to give you some tips on what you can do to protect yourself, and we'll look at perhaps what some legislative suggestions might be to improve it. We'll be back with our topic of GRAMA on the county seat in just a minute.
There is a place where looking out means looking in, where an impression lasting only a few seconds will be imprinted on a life forever, where courage is forged and innocence rediscovered, where remembering is rewarding and forgetting unforgettable. There is a place where truth is felt and where seeing is believing. There is a place.
Kanab, base camp for your southern Utah adventures. You belong in Kanab.
Along Interstate 70 and Highway 89 is an area that is rich with high mountain peaks, vast forests, lakes, streams, historical sites, and a climate that is perfect for outdoor adventures, no matter what the season. Whether you visit Sevier County to catch one of the many celebrations, experience a country-style county fair, or be part of various concerts, sports, or equestrian events, you will be greeted by local residents with a smile and a welcoming hand. In the center of it all, Sevier County.
What would you do with an extra day in Utah Valley? Explore the Wasatch Mountains? Snap a family photo at Bridal Veil Falls. Cool off on Utah Lake or the Provo River. No matter what you're searching for, you can find it in Utah Valley. Bring everyone together.
Welcome back to the county seat. We are talking today about GRAMA, what it is, how it works, some of the challenges that come with it, and we are going to wrap up by just a little educational session here. How can people protect themselves from too much exposure of their personal data? What are some of the things individual citizens can or should do?
Well, that's a hard one, especially when you have to interact with the government. For instance, if you own a dog, you have to get a dog license. There's some indication in the law, there's a decision out of the State Records Committee that says if you're forced to go to the government to get a benefit, like a dog license, then that information doesn't have to be public. So that's one thing, is to be aware of what kinds of things are going to end up in the public sphere, and be prepared to accept that. I think the other thing is just to be educated about GRAMA, about how it's used, and realize that there's some things you just can't change very easily.
And at this point, I recently attended a transparency meeting, and those that were making the decisions felt the public had no concerns about their information being out there. And if the public does have concerns, they should contact their legislators. I also want to just throw in something with GRAMA. There's some parts of this job that's a delight. Received a request from someone that was celebrating their father's 80th birthday and wanted to have an old photo of the home he'd grown up in. And with a little bit of research, we were able to find the photo and scan it. Individuals that need to claim unclaimed funds, they have to prove that they resided at a certain residence in 1977. And we pull up an old microfiche and we find that information. Estate decisions, they have to know information. And we absolutely love to provide the information to the public. We consider ourselves the caretakers of the records, and it's a joy to provide the records to the public. And
if we didn't have GRAMA, and it just didn't exist, and we were working off of something prior, are some of these requests that people make, is it conceivable that they would not have access to the records that pertain to them even without it, or would it just be that it's a gray area?
Yeah. Well, you have to have a long memory, but
unfortunately mine gets shorter by every passing day.
Our records law started in the 1860s. We had privacy and public identified in the 1860s.
Yeah. And you know, GRAMA, I think GRAMA doesn't make a lot of substantive changes in what the law was before GRAMA. It's just that it's far more detailed than it ever was before. And so sometimes we'd have to go to case law to see what the specific details were. And there was a standard in the old case law that before GRAMA that said the government shouldn't give out records that, according to normal societal norms, people would consider embarrassing. You know, and that's not a bad standard, but it's pretty...
Our term now is invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
If you consider it an invasion of privacy, but GRAMA's very gray.
An unwarranted invasion of personal privacy, yeah.
So if you have a warranted one,
that's exactly
get a warrant, you can invade your privacy.
That's exactly the point, Chad. If the invasion is clearly warranted, that becomes a balancing test. What's warranted and what's not.
Where could we go from this point forward, in your opinion? Because you guys work with it every day. What would make the system better?
Well, real quickly, I think the legislature could examine a bill that when you've got a record that has a genuine commercial value, fair market value, in other words, you could go out to PetSmart and find out how much a customer list cost. And you could go to the county animal services and find out what a customer list cost. And if those were more or less equal, then some of these big commercial businesses wouldn't be relying so much on county government. They'd be going to the private sector for those kinds of products.
In a way, you're actually competing with the private sector.
That's exactly right.
Well, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Yvonne, Gavin, we appreciate your being here on the county seat. We appreciate you inviting us into your home every week. Remember always that local government is where your life happens. Don't just be an observer, be involved and be part of the solution. Tell your friends about County Seat. We enjoy your comments. We would welcome them on our social media. You can go to our website and find out all the details there. We'll see you next week on the County Seat. If you like this video, then we invite you to subscribe to our channel, The County Seat. You can do that here. And we invite you to share with your friends. We also invite you to get all the latest up-to-date information by following us on our social media channels. And if all else fails, make sure that you watch The County Seat Sunday morning at 8:30 right here on ABC4.